Alright, here's what we have going on in this video. I'm not going to be able to do all the work that I want to do on this chisel plow today because I just don't have I don't have any of the parts to add the shanks on or to make this disc gang come out any further. So what we're going to do today, we're going to get this tire here fixed and we're going to mount this toolbox on the front hitch of the chisel plow. Now I've put them boxes on the other chisel plow that we have. I put one on our disc, and it's just nice to kind of put the tips in there, wrenches, bolts, and all that crap, and then you're not lugging the stuff in and out of the cab. So this is a 17 shank Landoll chisel plow. It's hooked to the 9560. It's primarily what we're going to use to pull this implement, and we're going to add 2 more shanks to it. So I don't have the parts yet to add the 2 shanks to it nor the disc, so let's get this toolbox on there. And I have to check the walking beam bushings. On our other chisel plows, we had a bearing go bad in the walking beam, and then as we got looking at things, the other side wasn't too far behind it, and then we ended up automatically just replacing the walking beam bushings on the other Landoll chisel plow, which my uncle now has. We ended up selling one of them to him. And I ended up going through and doing the walking beam bearings. I'm calling them bushings, but they're actually bearings on the 2 discs that we had, but I wasted my time on that. Those bearings were fine. So I'm going to check this out. That takes the same bearing as the disc. And then of course there's 2, 4, 6, there's 8 bearings on this. And that's same thing with the chisel plows, or the discs rather. We couldn't figure out why the disc bearings were good. Everything had grease in them, even on the chisel plows that the bearings were gone on. But we feel that it must have something to do with coming across the ground and they're all the time, you know, wandering back and forth, and maybe because the ground's a little rougher where the wheels ride on the chisel plow opposed to the wheels on the disc. They're running in soft ground and everything. So we are going to check that out on this one, and we'll get the box on there, and then we'll come back at you in a few days and we'll go ahead and get the discs on here. What we have to do to get the discs on there, we have to add, I believe it's 2 more to each side. We really don't use the discs anyways, but it was part of the parts that I wanted to add to it. Now there is 2, 4, 6, there's 8 on this side, so we're going to stretch this out to 10. They're going to give us a longer arbor. We got to lengthen the scraper bar out, and you know, so we'll be getting that on there too. So let's get this toolbox on there. So we got the tire off in there, we've got it all cleaned up, and I ran some soaping water over the tread. I ran that a couple different times, and it appears that what we have a problem with is the bead. It appears to be that, like that, on both sides. You can see the air bubbles that have accumulated. Let me get this rolled around there in the soap, and then this side as well. So we're just going to dismount it, clean it up, see if maybe it ain't just got a bunch of dirt in there. And if that isn't the case, we're going to just throw a tube in it. You can see that one's bubbling right there. That's on the inside bead. So we'll dismount it and see what we see once we get the tire dismounted. Alright, it appears that we've got just a dirty bead. There's a bunch of dirt in there, so I'm going to clean that up and try that. Well, we'll air that up, let it sit for a while, grab the materials we need for the toolbox, spray it down with soapy water, and come back to it here in a while. hopefully that takes care of the trick. I hate putting tubes in tires that are tubeless, especially something like this, just because yeah, it is what it is. I hate putting tubes in tires. So let's air this up and hopefully it holds air. Well, we're having to break into a new Welding helmet here. I've had this Welding helmet here since February of '09, and the auto shade darkening part of the helmet here doesn't work anymore. I thought it had a bad battery in it. I put a new battery in it the other day. That didn't do the trick. So we've got a couple other helmets around here. I was screwing around thinking that maybe the batteries I got were no good. We're jumping back and forth with batteries and everything else, and we determined that this auto darkening part is just not working anymore. It's unfortunate because the rest of the helmet is in good shape, but they told me at Han that it's quite expensive to get that mechanism there, and being that the helmet's 11 years old. So I've got to get on the internet and do some searching for that. This is the Performance Series. This one, let me get this mask off in there, and maybe somebody can recognize this and they can shoot me in the right direction as far as finding a component to go in this helmet, so I haven't got to throw the damn thing away. Let me see if I can get this off in there. So here, this thing here is, if anybody can recognize this thing and maybe shoot me in the right direction, like I was saying, it's a Miller Performance Series, and there isn't any numbers on the back. It's yeah, it is what it is. So shoot me an email or drop me a comment or something if you know where I can get one of these. I called up Han the other day, and Tim had to take some torch tanks back, and he ended up picking up this helmet here. So we're gonna open this guy up. This one is a Infinity Series. This one's supposed to have a few more features to it as far as the darkening part of it and whatever. You're supposed to be able to grind with it, use it as a clear mask. So this mask cost me 299 bucks. I can't remember how much that one was, but this has been a good helmet. Done a lot of work with it. So let's get this out of the bag and we'll take a peek at it quick, and then we'll get back to this project that I have going on with the toolbox on this chisel plow here. So this helmet's got a bunch of functions in the actual lens here. You can, oh, I can't quite see. You could screw around with a timer on it. I'll have to get the book out, but anybody that's used these masks know that they're quite handy. So high definition optics for precision arc recognition. So it's supposed to be a little better as far as having a more true look at what the weld looks like. So we're going to try that out and see how that helmet works here. I'm assuming it has the batteries in it already. On. Grind. X mode. Whatever that is. I gotta read the book on it, but we're gonna just try to weld with it right now. So came with a bunch of replacement lenses. What else did it come with? Come with the replacement. This must be some kind of a what the heck is this guy? Infinity mag lens adapter installation. So I'll have to read up on that, but it come with a book. Another optional headgear piece, and then we've got a a helmet bag as well, which I've never used these damn things. I'm not even going to take it out of the bag. So we're just going to throw everything else in the box here and try this thing out. Well, we finally got all of our parts to add the 2 gangs to the chisel plow here. So we've got these big blue brackets here. They're actually going to go up front. And what they are going to enable us to do is to add on a couple of more discs. And then we've got the brackets, the short stubbies here. Those are going to bolt, U-bolt right to here. And then the extended frame goes on this side, which is that one there. And then the other one goes on the other side. So Nate's gonna let the disc gang down so that we can get this off of here, and we've got to unbolt this frame. So go ahead and go down a little bit. Alright. Okay, so we're going to unbolt this, and this is the first thing we're going to start on is the disc. We got to add a longer shaft and a longer frame. Well, we're moving along somewhat here. We've got the beam on the front that the discs are going to hang from. We did lack some parts. We lacked 2 discs. We lacked one of these spacers that goes in between the discs. We lacked some U-bolts and some other things. So doesn't appear to be that there's any discs around. They did send us a couple of convex discs or concave discs, and that's what would go on a regular disc. We need a straight one. So this short beam came off this one side, and the longer one had to get added on there. So they're getting things set up here for hanging this one gang. There was a new arbor, a longer arbor, went into that disc assembly. Here's the old one here, and then that arbor is the same arbor that we use on one of our other discs. So we'll be able to use that on it. However, we're going to have these beams here left over.
That doesn't matter.
I probably shouldn't even have bothered buying the new beam. We could have just added on, you know, some 4x4 box tube, or is that 4x4? 4x5, I guess it would be. And that would have worked good enough to hang that extra bearing support and U-bolt spring, so C-spring, I guess they're called. Well, we've got this just about done. We were lacking a few parts. We were only sent 2 discs, and we need 2 more. We do have those here now, and what I'm doing right now is I'm lengthening this scraper bar here. We've added the shanks to each side. Now, when they put these shanks on, they alter the length of the actual frame so that it can stagger them. So as you're plowing through heavy material, whether it be corn stalk material or box stall manure or whatever, it's got a way to filter its way through the chisel plow. So the one that went on the right hand side was the extended frame, and then that is next to a short frame. And then the frame that went on the left side here, that is a short one because that's just the way it starts. And then all you have to do to add a shank on to this frame is just add this piece here. So we put a piece like this on each side, and then we had to obviously put this wider frame to accept the discs, and I should have just bought a piece of 4x5 box tube and welded it to the old ones. I just wasn't thinking about it. And that is what it is. So we're waiting for a few parts. We lack this spacer here that goes in between the discs. We need 2 of those to finish this side here. I don't know when we're gonna get that, but that's what we were shorted. So right now I'm working on this scraper bar. For whatever reason, I was sent 2 long pieces, and all I need to do is add on to this here by 14 inches. The ones they sent me were actually a little shorter than this. I don't know what they were thinking, but at any rate, we can add on to that, and then we've got a full length left over, plus a little bit. So these are the pieces that came off. Those arbors there we can use on our discs. We do have a section that's only, I think that's 60 inches. But some of you have asked in the past why we don't have a John Deere chisel plow. The John Deere chisel plows aren't built heavy enough. The Landoll chisel plow, I feel, is the heaviest chisel plow made. There's a lot of iron incorporated into this chisel plow. I mean, you can just look at the actual chisel shank itself, the size of the spring, the size of the framework involved into that shank itself, and there's a lot of iron here. The 2 shanks that we added on, along with the extended frame, extended arbor, disc, scrapers, and all that, roughly added up to be about 1,900 pounds. Roger went after this stuff the other day, had it in the back of my truck, and I ran it across the truck scale before we put the parts on here. So we're gonna get welding them little scraper brackets, and we'll see when the rest of our parts are gonna be here. We're probably just gonna have to pull this outside and use it the way it is. All right, so I've got my angle iron that holds the scraper bars lengthened. I put a 14-inch piece on there, butt welded it. We're gonna put another little piece of angle iron on here, just on the outside, to just put a little more strength on there, because all we have is just a butt weld. It's kind of look hideous, but at any rate, it is what it is. I've had a chance to use this weld mask on this project here. And this is a Miller Infinity mask, and it's got a couple of functions to the auto darkening lens that the other helmet did not have. I'll show you the back side of the display. There's a panel in here that lets you go through different functions. Now it's on weld mode now, and what that'll do is it'll auto darken when you start welding. Then it's got a cut mode for using the torches, and you can range the darkness of the shade anywhere from 1 to 10, depending on how bright you need it. And then it's got grinding mode, which you can change the darkness on the lens as well. And it's got X mode, which we'll talk about that in a second. And then back to weld mode. So the X mode, what that is for an example, welding outside, for example, because when you have these welding masks on, as soon as you hit a bright light, it will darken the lens on you. And for those of you that have welded outside before, it can be a real pain. I've had to bring a piece of equipment in to be alongside me when I'm welding, just so that the brightness of the sun wasn't triggering my mask all the time, or to get in on the back side of the mask as well. But that X mode, what that'll do is that will auto darken the lens when it detects the pulse from the welder. So it doesn't necessarily grab the light difference from welding. It's actually detecting the pulse from welding, and it will darken the mask. That feature has been working pretty good. It's not really something you need too awful much inside, but if you're welding on something that's straight in front of you and you turn to the side to grab a piece of metal or something, or if you go to grab something, and if you flash your head over to look outside or something, once in a while it'll auto darken your lens and you usually have to flip up your mask, or you just get to be in position to weld and something will flash on you, whether it's who knows what. So that X mode is a good feature. Now that helmet I got from Han Welding the other day, and it was $299. Hopefully it lasts as long as the other one. So we're going to get back on this project here, get these scraper bars on there and get this chisel plow finished up. So that is going to do it for the chisel plow project. 2 shanks have been added. We added this front beam here on both sides to add 2 more scrapers. We're going to walk around the other side. The first job I started on this chisel plow was adding the toolbox, and of course we had a flat tire that Junior alerted me about here, and all that was just a bead seal problem there. So we've got the shanks have both been added, and I had to do the same thing to this scraper bar for the discs on this left hand side. We had to add on to the angle iron. The piece they sent us was it wasn't long, it wasn't even half the length of that. I don't know what they figured on. So the only thing I wish I did that I would have done different is either run without adding these discs all together, or just weld on a piece of box tube. I mean, we could have done that with no problem. So we also added this toolbox here. We have these toolboxes on a chisel plow or on our disc and on our other chisel plow, and then the chisel plow my uncle bought, we put one on that one too. Now the hitch is a little wider on this one. It enabled us to put the toolbox right in the center of the hitch. This is slightly on an incline. On the other chisel plows, it seemed like everything was always working to the front of the toolbox. So I put this on a little bit of an incline just to kind of take care of that. I'm not sure if it was the right thing to do or not, but that is obviously going to be inside the tire tracks from the tires rubbing on the side of the frame or anything. On the other chisel plow, the 13 shank chisel plows, I had to put the toolbox up on the hitch on that side. I couldn't put it on this side because of the depth control. That lever here, you know, that comes out to about here like that. So yeah, so this should be pretty good chisel plow paired up behind the 9560. So we're gonna go ahead and roll this out of the shop, and that is gonna do it for this video. We're thinking maybe in the next couple days we'll be able to actually do some chisel plowing here. So remember to leave me a thumbs up, drop me a comment down below, and we'll catch you at the next one. Thanks for watching.